Headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
We've also seen some incredibly brave people protesting. And again, it does take extraordinary bravery to protest in a country like Russia. We've seen thousands of people already arrested by police forces in Russia for those demonstrations against the invasion of Ukraine, including, and some extraordinary footage we're going to be showing on our video footage, our TV output right now, of children who've been arrested. 5 children as young as, I think the youngest is 7 years old, being arrested for the crime of, wait for it, laying flowers outside the Ukrainian embassy.
Yeah, I reported on this in today's newspaper. They're holding little no to war signs and flowers, and they'd been at a demonstration with their parents, and they were taken into the back of a police van and arrested by Russian authorities. Now, they were later released after lawyers were brought in, but I think it shows the scale of the police state and the fear of what the Russian people really think that Russia's power and authorities have, that, children as primary school age children can be arrested over the most minor of protests. But
there is still this balance. I mean, again, I keep watching the world saying this is outrageous. And we talked a little bit earlier with the Security Minister, Damien Hines, about these battles over information and disinformation and fake news and control of the internet, of social media, control of mainstream media, what people are seeing, what information they get, how do you verify it, but also the right to protest, the right to peacefully have your say. Frankly, I think it's a bit rich of the West to say, oh, this is outrageous, how outrageous we can do this, when we had the West pretty much silent, world leaders silent, when Justin Trudeau sent in people to deal with the peaceful protests. Yes, pain in the backside, I'm sure they were, for the people of Ottawa when you have hundreds and hundreds of truckers move in. But nevertheless, civil disobedience, a peaceful protest, freezing their assets, freezing the assets of people who even so much as give food or donate $10 to those truckers. I know that the battle in Ukraine is very different, but these principles should be if they're not there all the time, they're not principles. They're just convenient opinions rather than principles. But the idea that the West stands completely silent while Justin Trudeau basically rips up the Canadian Constitution and takes away the basic civil right, fundamental human right to peaceful protest, treating people as if they were terrorists while they're sitting in their trucks in Ottawa, and then says, oh, this is awful what Putin's doing on the streets of Russia. We in the West have got to start understanding that these principles need to be there 24/7, 365 around the whole world.
Well, I'm afraid I think that comparison is completely wrong.
Why?
I didn't stand by silent with what Trudeau was doing. I actively applauded what he was doing, because those truckers didn't have a right to shut down a whole city, just like Insulate Britain didn't have a right to glue themselves to a road. And
there are laws where they can be removed, where you can use to deal with civil protests. Yeah, I mean, I completely understand that and sympathise with the Ottawa residents who had to put up with noise, with the disruption, absolutely. But in a civilised, democratic Western society, we allow peaceful protests. They have been treated, no support them, have been treated as if they are terrorist sympathisers.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, because those people were blocking an entire city from functioning.
And that's the same as terrorism? That's the same as invading a foreign nation like Russia has done?
Why do they think that they have a right to shut down an entire city?
Should we have treated Insulate Britain like that?
And also, let's just put this in context. Justin Trudeau was re-elected only a few months ago with this in his manifesto.
I'm sorry, he lost his majority. He's in a minority government.
You know how their system works, just like ours.
But he hasn't got the fulsome support of the Canadian people.
The policy of the vaccine mandates, which is what the truckers were protesting, was in his manifesto. And that is how democracy works. And Russia is not a democracy. It isn't.
When Extinction Rebellion were blocking, main thoroughfares in London and Insulate Britain, blocking M25 in the last few years, should we have frozen the assets of anybody who supported them and them? Should we have done that to them?
To the people that were gluing themselves to the road persistently, yeah, sure. Anything to stop them.
Anything to stop them. Let's just throw them in prison for years on end, treat them as terrorists. I don't agree with their aims, I don't agree with their methods, but unless they are breaking specific existing laws on and when the police tell you to move, you have to move, that's very different. I find it extraordinary that you don't understand how important the right to protest is in a democracy.
I do.
But only when you agree with it.
There is a very clear... No, because I would agree with the Extinction Rebellion aims. I just disagree with the means. there is a very clear difference between people who go on a march and have placards and make peaceful, commentary, or even noisy commentary for that matter. And that's something that's currently being questioned in Parliament at the moment. I think you should be able to disrupt with noise and things. But to shut down infrastructure and the ability of other people to lead their own lives, whether it's Insulate Britain or Canadian truckers, is wrong. That isn't comparable to Russia.
And there are laws in place for them to take action against that, but they didn't involve needing to treat people as if they were terrorists or shutting down and attempt to seize the money of those who were donated to that cause. We're not talking about funding ISIS here. We're talking about truck drivers who don't think that people should be forced to have a vaccine.
I don't think the ambulances or people in rushes to get across bridges in Ottawa appreciated the truck divers who intentionally blocked those bridges. But we're talking about in the context of Russia, and people that hold no to war signs, children, their right to do that is nothing like the truckers blocking roads in Ottawa. They have clearly a right to do that, as anyone in Ottawa would have to hold signs.
The point is, in Russia, they don't have a right to do that. But when the West does not defend the right of their citizens to hold peaceful protests and civil disobedience, we then lose the moral authority to argue against countries like Russia and many other countries that don't allow it.
I think it's a totally unfair comparison. We do defend, not maybe enough sometimes, but we do defend the right to protest. And what we're saying that people should be able to do in Russia is absolutely allowed and regular in parts of the world like Britain and Canada.
Can I just say, he's a generation younger than me. My God, I fear for my country. I really, really do. He seems like a normal person. And then I despair. I genuinely despair that people who think they're on the liberal left hold those views. Be careful what you wish for, is all I can say.